Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Adventures in Truth livecast. My name is Jim Case. I am your host, and I'm excited that you're here. And if you're here, I would appreciate if you would like or subscribe. Hit that button that says you're interested in seeing the show and being notified about it on a regular basis. We love that you're here. We love that you're a part of the show, and look forward to sharing some amazing topics with you. And today is no different. We're going to have an incredible topic today. Moshe Engelberg is back with us to do another conversation with Moshe. And today we're going to be talking about the path I've chosen, consciously or unconsciously. And this topic took a little bit to flesh out because it really started in a place of me having a little angst in my own process, which is not necessarily unusual sometimes, but this particular angst is an interesting one because it really speaks to the path, conventionality and non-conventionality, and that I've chosen a path in my life that has a particular impact on the way I view the world. It has an impact on the way I engage with the world. And so there are certain ramifications to that choice that sometimes are uncomfortable. And as Moshe and I were talking about it, we realized that this would be an interesting conversation in contrast because we both chose very different paths in our experience. Mine tended to be a little more unconventional. His tended to be a bit more conventional, and how those have impacted us. And so we're going to dive into that pretty deep today. I'm excited about the topic. But before we begin, let's talk about my book. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. I'm trying to find myself this morning. Here we go. All right. I want to talk to you about my book, Fear is a Choice. fearisachoicebook.com is where you can find all the information about my book. You can find links to order. You can find additional video material, testimonials, all that kind of good stuff. But Fear is a Choice is a powerful book. It is really a life-changing book in my viewpoint because it changes your relationship with fear. Because as you understand fear and the evolution of fear in your experience, you really begin to see how powerfully fear is a choice. And that when you choose when you choose not to be in fear, the opportunities and options that open up to you because you are no longer limited by this intense focus of fear. So it'll go through with you, it'll take you through kind of the evolution of fear in our experience, and then how that fear has evolved at the individual level, how we perpetuate it, and how it's stimulated in our day-to-day life, but then how you can disengage from that and how you can begin to view the world more as the observer and having these things show up in the field of your awareness and being able to respond to them in a way that's most deeply satisfying for you. So Fear is a Choice, fearisachoice.com. I encourage you to check it out. And I think you'll find it's pretty awesome. Order one for your friends. Okay. We'll be right back. All right. My world is good. How's your world, people? How's your world? We're going to talk for a minute just about this wonderful movement that I'm very excited about. This, for me, is the year of conscious creation. And the year of conscious creation is all about moving away from all of that unconscious behavior. We're even going to talk about it on the show today. Moving away from the unconscious behavior of just letting things be without any awareness of why they are or how they are in your experience. And, watching our experience over and being a part of the world and the experience of life over the last 4 or 5 years, it was challenging to me to see all of this powerfully negative focus getting all the attention and creating an impact in the mass consciousness of our planet. And you can see it everywhere. I'm involved with groups with people all over the world, and the message is the same everywhere. And I thought, you know what, if they can be done from a negative perspective, why can't it be done from a positive one? So I wanted a neutral, positive statement that had nothing to do with race, religion, color, sex, political affiliation, who your doctor is, what food you eat. I don't care. What I want is for us 7.5 to 8 billion unique worlds that are inhabiting this planet to change and shift the consciousness that surrounds this planet. My world is good is about helping us change the perception of what we see in the world, because as we generate that energy individually, my world is good, my world is good, our perception begins to reflect back to us the belief that our world is good. And then we begin to see it unfolding in the world in front of us. My world is good. And we start to create a tipping point. And as more and more of us align to this powerful message and send that message into our worlds and then align with others in that space, we will create a tipping point that will influence the mass consciousness, that we all begin to see more of the good in the world and begin to expand that perception and begin to elevate our experience in a conscious way. So join the movement. It doesn't require your email. I don't want your money. This is about you. This is about you engaging in a powerful, powerful, forward-moving energy. My world is good because you are creating this year consciously. So I ask you to focus there, to be a part of that. And I'm very excited about it, and I hope you are too. And we'll be back to get the show off the ground in just a second. Be right back. And we are back. Good morning. Oh, look at me. I didn't change my background. I got all button happy and didn't change my background. Here we go. There it is. It wouldn't be right if I didn't have my background right. Good morning, Moshe.
Hey, Jim. Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Here I am trying to read without my glasses. All right. For those of you who have not met Moshe, this is my friend and colleague Moshe Engelberg, PhD. He has written an incredible book and is starting his own incredible movement called the Amare Wave. www.theamare Wave. Moshe will talk to you about that a little bit later in the show. But Moshe is a published author. He is a business consultant. His amazing company helping to bring love into organizations and into companies to help them evolve as well. It's pretty powerful stuff. So excited that you're here again. We always have great conversations. I know. So good stuff. So this, the path I've chosen, consciously or unconsciously, I kind of gave a little intro. I'd love to hear your perspective of how we arrived at this topic. Do you have one?
I'll find one if I don't. Yes. This came about in a conversation you and I had last week about what will our topic be, and it started with what you pointed out about doing the right thing and on the right path and how to make decisions and so on, and that led us to step back and look at our paths. I asked the question to you, have you ever taken the conventional path? And you said, well, not really, not since I left home when I was 16. And then we reflected on that and our different paths, very different, and yet our lives and our work has converged in many ways. So that was the genesis of it, as I remember.
Yes, and I think that ultimately the gist of it is understanding. If you're choosing consciously, then you understand that there are ramifications to choice always, and the ramifications don't have to be negative, but they do have impact. And sometimes that impact is a little uncomfortable, maybe, because in order to stay true to that path, you're constantly realigning against the things that you're being confronted with in your world, whether it's a conventional path or an unconventional path. But it becomes a really interesting. I was thinking earlier today, one of the things, because you had mentioned the part of living home at 16, but I remember when I was looking for my first job, and I know I can only imagine how many people have heard this statement: just get a job, take anything. It doesn't matter what it is, just get a job. And I remembered, I'm visually remembering driving down the street going, are they out of their flipping mind? Why would I just get a job? Why would I get anything? Like this doesn't make, and I'm what, 14, 15, 16 years old. I'm already in this place of saying, yeah, no. I don't know what that is, but that's not me. I can't go there. Look, you can go get a fast food job, go to McDonald's. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's not who I am. That's not what I want. And this is a young kid who doesn't know anything about life at this point. But I did not get any job. Never happened through my whole life. And I've heard that so many times throughout my life, wherever I've been at the juncture of not having a job and sitting in a space of, I got to I'm working on it. I'm feeling my way into whatever. And at that point, I don't think I had the same language, but
Right.
the idea was the same. I'm sitting in this. I haven't found it. It doesn't feel right. No, I'm not going to go work at McDonald's. I got to figure this out. This is going to, and every time every time something came through that was in line with where I wanted to go or in line with what I thought I needed at the time. But that idea of just get any job, part of that conventional wisdom, you need a job, take whatever you get, which interestingly sounds very depression-esque to me, but, like as in the Great Depression-esque, like that was something that was born of a time when people were suffering a lot. And so it didn't matter what the job was, just get it, because then you made money and you could put food on the table and, do all that stuff. But I don't know if that's real or not.
Well, I think there's an advantage of that in that the place where that just get a job comes from, I think, is the intention behind it is, here's how life works.
Mm.
Here's how. So it's, you grow up, you go to school, you find someone to share your life with, you get work, you maybe raise a family, you do this, you do that, work in the community. And so there's these prescribed things to do that are part of culture, the culture we live in. And culture, I think by definition, is meant to be invisible. It's just how we are. Like a fish in water, it doesn't know it's in water. It's just there doing its thing, swimming. So culture often feels like not a choice. It's just the way it is. The advantage of that, I think, is it can make life easier because not every single thing is a reinvention. And now what do I do? But the downside is it's very prescriptive and proscriptive. Is that a word? Where it says, do this, don't do that. Like, get any job. You're 15 years old, get a minimum wage job at McDonald's, like you said. And you're saying, no. But in that you're saying, I understand the value of having a job and making money, but I'm not going to just take any job. That's not worth it. So I think there's a wise intent underneath it, but the way we get so stuck on it doesn't serve. Yeah,
that's good stuff. So this is a good place, I think, to segue to a moment of focus. This is going to be even in this far in, I can feel that we're going to have a pretty interesting conversation, because this weaving of conventional, unconventional, and how conscious versus unconscious is impacting that, especially as we become older and we move into life. So Moshe, we're going to have you right back. We're going to dive in here to a quick moment of focus. This is something I like to do to kind of bring us all together in energy. I like putting my money where my mouth is, in the sense that I want you to have that part of your daily practice, but I also want to show you that the use of breath and focus is so important to bringing all of our energy together. And in this format, in this experience, I want us all to focus into the same direction, so that as Moshe and I are unfolding this topic, your energy is influencing us. Your energy is encouraging us to go deeper, to bring more to the surface, so that we all benefit in a really great way from where this conversation goes, from the tools that we may talk about to the experiences that we have. So what I want you to do at this moment now is I want you to take a deep breath. We're going to breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. And you'll do that through this entire process. And so you're going to focus into breathing in through the nose. Just take a nice deep breath, feel it all the way through your body, and bring it out through the mouth. Just purge all of that old energy and air. Purge it all the way out. Purge all the stale energy and air in the lowest part of the lungs. And I want you to relax into your body. I want you to just breathe and breathe into the feeling in your body. And as you're sitting, standing, laying down, whatever it is you're doing, let your eyes close and focus for a moment into my voice, feeling your own energetic experience. I want you to become aware of your field. That is the energy that surrounds your being, the energy that you are emanating into the world. Just become aware of it through the breath, inhaling through the nose, exhaling from the mouth. Be aware of the immensity of the field that surrounds you. This is all you, all your energy, this massive, beautiful, glowing display of your field. And as you settle into that experience of your field and feeling into that, begin to notice the things that occupy the spaces in your field. Notice that you attend to a lot of things all over the course of your field. There are little areas of densification. There are areas or pockets of more dense energy or slow flowing energy, depending on the circumstance. And we attend to everything, right? We attend to all kinds of things. The things that are more concerning are the things that we leave in our field unattended because we can't reach resolution, or we don't understand it, or we don't know what it is. But they consume parts of our field. And so just be aware of that stuff. I want you to notice it, because as you notice it and become conscious of it, you can begin to create change. So notice those things, and then bring all of your focus back into your heart space as you're inhaling through the nose and exhaling from the mouth. And on your next inhale, I want you to command your field. I want you to pull all of that energy, not all of the stuff you're attached to, just all of the energy. Just bring it into your body. Pull it into your heart space. Pull that field in. I want you to experience the inside of you. Feel that field inside of you. Feel that energy. Feel the warmth that's growing in your chest. Feel the little buzz that's going on in your nervous system as all of that energy is inside your physical body. And I want you to let your consciousness roam around the inside of your experience. I want you to become intimate with the inside of you as you inhale through the nose and exhale from the mouth. Let your consciousness roam around your brain through your sinuses and back behind your eyeballs, and in through your brain. Explore that whole cavity, that whole big chamber inside your skull, the fluid and the brain tissue, and let yourself travel down to where the brainstem is connecting to the spinal cord and what goes on there, and seeing that spinal cord, traveling down that, seeing the nerves that are leaving that, sending these signals, and the fluid that surrounds and protects this vital, vital string, this life force conductor that lives inside of your body. Feel it and travel with it down to the base of the spine, all through your hips, all through your torso. Explore all of that, the bones and the tissue and the blood vessels and the nerves and the organs and the symphony of harmony that goes inside this system. All of these amazing systems, skeletal, muscular, the venous, the arterial system, the nervous system, the muscular, all of those systems that are working in harmony without your attention. And breathe into that experience. And now we're going to focus into that breath, keeping your awareness focused into the heart. I want you to inhale into the nose to a count of 4. You're going to fill completely at a count of 4. At the top of the breath, you're going to hold and feel that fullness. And then you're going to surrender it all. You're going to purge out of the mouth to a count of 6, because we want to release all of the deepest, oldest energy out of the lungs and the tissue and purge it and release it, making room for new vital force and energy. Because remember, with breath, energy and breath. Breath is the vital force. Breath is prana. It's chi. It's the thing that animates us. So as we learn to manage the breath, we learn to manage energy. We learn to manage our energy. Some things don't require our immediate conscious attention, but much does. So here we go, settling in as you begin to breathe, focusing in through the nose, inhaling, 2, 3, 4, feeling full, feeling amazing as you relax into the fullness, and now release it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good. Purging from the mouth, releasing that, and now settling into the equally powerful space of the void, the emptiness. Be in emptiness for just a moment. Re-engaging the lungs as you inhale. 2, expanding. 3, 4, feeling that amazing fullness and richness, relishing in it as you relax into it, and now consciously purging all of that energy from the mouth. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now into that emptiness. Just rest and relax into that amazing experience of void, of empty. And then consciously choosing to engage the lungs again as you inhale. 2, 3, 4, feeling full, feeling rich, feeling amazing, relaxing, and then surrendering it again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and resting and relishing the experience of empty, of the void, of clarity. And continue that breath process on your own now. Continue to breathe as you fill up completely, feeling it completely as you expand, and then at the top you rest and you purge, releasing it all, letting it go, no attachment, surrendering consciously, because you're going to create anew, and let that breath cycle continue. And as we go on through this process of breath, I want you to take in the experience them. My world is good. My world is good. My world is good. Feeling into your world, feeling the power of who you are. My world is good. My world is good. Feel that as you experience the inside of you. My world is good. My world is good. Be in that experience for just a moment, continuing that breath cycle. And now, as you finish your last round of breath in this process, consciously allow your energy to expand back out into the world. Let the field expand around you, cleansed and purified by the breath. All this new energy that you've brought in, let that expand out into the field. Let it expand and attract all of the amazing things that you look for, that you are looking for. And allow yourself to come back into this moment, into this experience, and bring that clarity and that focus to this conversation as we carry on with Moshe in this amazing conversation about the path I've chosen. And we're back. Hi.
Hey, that felt good.
That was a good one. That was a good one. All right. So we're going to take this to the next level. So we kind of alluded to my path and Moshe's path. And so I wanted to kind of talk for a few minutes, just sort of highlighting some of the choices that we've made in various stages of our lives. Because I think the contrast would be very interesting in understanding this conscious and unconscious, but also the conventional and unconventional way. I was kind of sitting in this idea of conventional, and I was looking up the definition for it, and it really is all about the assimilation process. It's about assimilating into culture. It's about assimilating into society as it is, without regard to the individual. That there is a path, that there is this flow that occurs. And I thought, it's kind of interesting, because the conventional stuff, I think for 95 or 98% of us, is what helps us acclimate from the non-physical to the physical, right? We come from the non-physical into this new reality with this parents and family and situation and environment and all of these things that we need to acclimate to. So there's a certain amount of conventional that's helpful in the beginning, but it seems like we go from convention to a point of questioning the convention, and then at that juncture, it becomes a whole different animal. Where when we choose convention when we are trying to be conscious versus the unconventional when we become conscious. And so those forks seem to show up, at least in my own world, seem to show up repeatedly as a point of I don't know what the word is, but a point of choice, I guess. Which path are you moving on? Which path are you choosing? And I think the first big one, I talked about the work thing that I was remembering, but I think that the juncture of that leaving home piece was also another one of those. I was standing in the backyard, having been locked out of the house because I was sneaking out of the house to go explore myself, as it were, and standing there and thinking to myself, if I knock on this door, I'm going back into a situation that I can't abide any longer. I've tasted too much of life in my short time here. I want more of that. I don't want more of this. And so turning and walking away from the house at 16 and walking 5 miles to the town that was nearest me was the choice I made. I would say that was probably an unconventional choice.
You would.
So where were you at that moment, in my moment of 16? What was in your world at that time, or around that time?
I was in and out of hospitals, pretty sick with Crohn's disease. On a lot of medication, in a lot of pain, getting a little too friendly with pain medication because it felt good and put me in a place that was easier to be in than being in constant pain. So it was a tough time. Also not conventional, but in a very different way. And I can't say I consciously chose it. I can say I did not consciously choose it. Some people might say it was my karma, or I did something to bring that on. That doesn't happen to be my belief system. How it came to be is a bit of a mystery. I have some thoughts about it, but yeah, that was a rough time of life. But I was recognizing then that I'm not on a path like everybody else, because I could see my friends. They were doing teenager things and having fun and growing up, and I was in the hospital, just kind of looking there and just getting through the days.
So you were experiencing a different kind of non-conventional experience, interestingly enough, and interesting to have chosen that particular window, because that window of time, because I did not know that was what was going on in your world at that time of your life. So I'm digesting that as a part of this conversation. So I'm like, wow, okay. So you were somewhat denied the conventional experience in a way. So environment sets up, and it's true for all of us. There I was in my environment. In my environment, I apparently created a setup for myself to make a choice. I don't know that did you have a choice? Do you remember a choice moment in that time frame that changed the trajectory of what was going on for you?
Well, there were several choice moments, and some I at this point in life I regret choices I made, some I didn't. So, for example, my parents, my mother got very interested in alternative treatments. This was back in the 1970s. And she basically saw, my kid's in a lot of pain. The Western medicine stuff isn't working that well. Let's look at alternatives. Of course, since they were interested in that, my parents, I had no interest in it, because I did follow the convention of not wanting to do what my parents wanted as a teenager. And at one point, they found a health farm somewhere in the South, in Louisiana maybe, where they had healthy food, even organic food, which was unusual at the time, being in the sun, doing a lot of natural stuff, kind of getting back to nature. And they found the place. They had airplane reservations. I remember lying in my bed, holding on for dear life while my parents are pleading with me, come on, get out of bed, get on the plane, and let's go. It can only help. And I refused. I was so stuck that I refused to go. And to this day, I think that might have changed everything. Because what happened a year later is I was on a different path. I got sicker and sicker. I was down to about 70-something pounds. My parents took me to Cleveland Clinic, which was near where I grew up in Pittsburgh. And the surgeon there said, if we don't do surgery on you, you'll be dead in 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said, okay, let's do the surgery. And after that, I felt so good. They basically bypassed the part of my intestine that was so inflamed and causing so much pain. Anytime I would eat or drink anything. And so immediately I felt better. I was going to the vending machine, getting hamburgers in the middle of the night. I would eat anything. And it felt so good to feel good. It was like flipping a switch. So that was a result of my not doing the prior stuff. And my only choice if I wanted to live and believing in what this doctor said was cut out the bad part. So yeah.
Interesting. So
and your words of that you're taking time to digest this is appropriate because digestion is what was not happening.
That was the thing that wasn't working. Holy cow. So that was the first major so you had the surgery. So I'm thinking I'm correlating time frame here. So around 18-ish, 19-ish, there I am. I had decided that I was going to be an actor, and New York was my thing, and created an amazing alignment of working in Lambertville, New Jersey, and met this woman who had a studio in New York. I met her with her husband. I waited on her at a table. I mean, kind of quintessential sort of story. Met them, was enamored, loved it, really enjoyed them. Sandy was an amazing woman. She was my first mentor. Moved to New York, spent a year and a half working with her, actually lived in her studio for a while. And a year and a half in, realized I was not in the right place. didn't have the skin for it. I just wasn't it. And so once again, I was at another crossroads, and I had to make a choice. And so I chose to walk away from that, not having any idea what I was going to do next, because, whoops, we're getting blinkies today. I don't know what's going on, but not knowing what was going to happen next. And so the next juncture really happened right after that. Within, I think, a month or so after that, I had met Mona, who ended up becoming my wife, but she was a powerful teacher. She was actually my next mentor. Met her in New York, and reached a point of I had sat down one day and said, I can't do this anymore. I can't live this aimless experience. And that was the Dear God letter that I wrote. God, my life sucks. But finished it at the end with, okay. After all that, I don't care what you do with me, but do something. I can't live like this anymore. So I'm giving my life to you. I don't care what you do with me. I don't care where you send me. I don't care where I go. Just please do something. And 24 hours later, I got a call from Mona to move to Arizona. And literally, I just and so the next adventure came. So once you got a little bit of, you started getting a little bit of health, what was your next juncture along the path of did you go back to more conventional path? Did you veer and go somewhere else with it? What happened for you next?
Well, it's sort of, I was finally feeling good after having surgery, and my friends had gone on a conventional path to start college. I was just finishing high school, so I was maybe 17 at the time, and my parents they were retiring, so they got a place in San Diego, and I had nowhere to go. I hadn't applied to any college and didn't have any plans. I was just starting to rehabilitate and feel better. So I go to San Diego with them. It happens that their condo is down the street from a UCSD, University of California, San Diego. In one of the more fatherly activities that my dad, who was more like a 50s dad, did with me, took me up to the university and said, my son's a smart kid. He's had a rough time because he'd been sick for a while, and now he's feeling better. And they said, well, how'd you do in school? I said, mediocre. I had like a B minus C average, didn't try very much, but I had decent board scores. So they said, well, we'll let you in here at UCSD on a non-matriculated way. If you have a B average, we'll let you be a regular student. So it's kind of a backdoor approach. It only happened because we were down the street and I didn't have anything else to do. So, okay, I'll go to college, and happened to be a good place. Actually, I did not meet the requirement of having a B average because I was finally feeling so good. I spent time at the beach and hanging out and doing other things that got in the way of my focusing and studying, and forgot to go to the final of one class, so I kind of failed it. But eventually I got into college. I like to say freshman year was the best 3 years of my life. Took a while to get through. So part of it was a doorway would appear. It didn't feel like I created the doorway, it appeared. I don't know that that's conscious. And so I'm contrasting the conventional, unconventional with the conscious, unconscious. It wasn't a conscious decision. I'm going to go to college at this place. It just appeared. Then I stepped into it. So in my life, there's been a degree of kind of, it's like the doorway's appearing, which has an unconscious aspect to it, to me, and then going through it and then becoming conscious of choices.
Yeah, interesting. You reminded me, because there was actually a space between, this is why it always gets confusing for me. There was a space between, there was a point that I did go to college. I didn't finish high school because I left early, and the school said, I'd gotten sick, and the school said, well, you need a note from your doctor. And I said, I don't live at home. And they said, we don't care. And I'm saying, you're telling me I can't come to school because I don't have a note from my parents who I don't live with? And they said, yes. And I said, okay. So I had to go. I went to visit a good friend my best friend from forever living where I lived. She was in school at a private Catholic college. And I went to visit her and fell in love with the school and the seminary. And so I went to the school and lived in a seminary for 6 months prior to this whole New York thing. And that was another crossroad point, because I really thought I was probably going to become a priest until I couldn't reconcile my gayness in the church, because I was already out at that point. This was before I met my wife, which gets all kinds of convoluted. But but it was another juncture, because that juncture ended with me eating a half a bottle of aspirin and drinking a beer in an attempt to commit suicide, which I really didn't mean, but I tried anyway. Wow. Because there was that overriding, this has got to stop, whatever this is. So this was pre the letter, God, I give you my life, when I moved to New York. So that was a segment between leaving home and going to Arizona. So there was another, so it seemed like they just kept coming. So what are you going to pick? What are you going to choose? Anyway, we got to take, we've been going at it here. I'm going to take a quick break because I want to make sure I give you time to talk about your book and talk about your work. So we're going to take a quick break in the action and do a quick commercial for the Science of Transformation, and we will be right back.
Science of Transformation method, and I can't tell you the difference that it's made in my life.
This program is all about you coming into the greatest form of you. All right, we are back, and I'm going to turn it over to Moshe here for a couple minutes to let him talk about all the cool things he's got going on. So I'll be right back.
All right, thanks, Jim. My work is all about helping good leaders and good organizations put love to work. There's a book I wrote, Jim showed you earlier, The Amare Wave, Uplifting Business by Putting Love to Work. And what's relevant with our conversation today is the idea of being conscious, and that means knowing yourself. I have a chapter in this book about alignment. Jim inspired some of it. And the key point is to know yourself. And it's not easy because in this world we're not taught that it's important. It's just we move forward, heads down, we do, typically the conventional way of being. So I believe we need to make conscious choices. And one of those is, are we going to conduct business as love with the goal of uplifting and connecting, or business as war, where it's about crushing the competition, capturing market share? And it's a more violent, predatory way of being. We have a choice. So if you're interested in an unconventional way to be in business that I hope will become the conventional way of being in business, check it out. The Amare Wave. You can get my weekly newsletters that invite people to put love to work. Take one action every Wednesday to put love to work, and lots of other info. And I'm happy to have a conversation with you. So get in touch and put love to work.
Fantastic. And I have on the screen there www.theamarewave.com, where you can learn about the book. You can be in touch with Moshe. And I was also putting up ResearchWorks, which is his company, so you can check out either direction. All right. So where were we here? So we were talking about alignment. So let's go there, because we have about 15 minutes or so. So we kind of outlined the beginning stages of our experiences and seeing these incredibly impactful events, which I'm sure across the scope of things, all of us have had these moments. Maybe not as dramatically, or maybe even more dramatically. But the key is that in every juncture, at every crossroads, there's a choice in alignment. There's a choice in a more conventional approach, or a choice in a more individual approach, or non-conventional. I contrast conventional and unconventional because it's hard not to deal with them. It's not about demonizing one or the other, but it's about recognizing that one creates an environment for you to begin to understand who you are. And then I think what happens is that those crossroads become the places of where you make choices into who you are versus into who the world says you're supposed to be, or who the vision of supposed to is. And so does that make sense, Moshe? Does that sound like a legitimate explanation?
Yeah, and I would add one aspect, which is people can either consciously choose a conventional approach, saying, this fits me, I want this, I like this. But I think what you're talking about mainly with conventional approaches, doing it unconsciously.
Yes.
Yeah,
not weighing those experiences, or being in the experience. Because in any uncomfortable experience, I mean, standing at 16 years old outside of the house that you grew up in, making a choice about your life or their life, it is pretty significant, I think. But it really is not about going the conventional route is wrong. It wasn't right for me. In that moment, that thing wasn't the thing that pulled me. The thing that got my attention the most was, I need to explore this avenue. This is what's lighting up for me. Sometimes, like in an extreme situation, I mean, I can imagine that, with what you had gone through and all that you missed in terms of your schooling and that whole socialization piece, that the decision had to be challenging, even though you knew you were dealing with physical issue and all of the pain you were in. That choosing convention at that point might feel safest because it gives you a chance to breathe for a few minutes. You know what I mean? Like, but even then, I don't think you went, even though you chose somewhat conventional, it wasn't a conventional choice. You were still actually in your unconvention, in the convention, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's really does that help further explain what I'm perceiving in this? Is just the idea that it's a combination of things, but mostly it's about consciousness and alignment. Because I can see, and I'm sure you can see in your experience, that those junctures, I still remember some of the deliberation that I went through in making the choices, and really sitting in this thing has felt this, sitting at the seminary thing, this calling has felt so profound in my life for so long, because I felt this relationship that this has got to be the way it expresses, until I got there and went, oh, no, this is not how this is going to express. Now what do I do?
Right.
Well, I can't. Do I deny this to go here, or do I enhance this to go there? And so my choice was enhance this and go there, and let's continue to evolve this.
I think the beauty and the powerful lesson in your story is, even at a young age, you were asking the question, is this right for me? Mm-hmm. You might not have had the language of alignment, mm-hmm. but you had the concept of it. In my life, I don't know that I did at that age. I don't know that I asked the question, is this right for me? It was in terms of, is this aligned with, and again, I was 17. I didn't know the word alignment, I don't think.
Right. No, don't know that I did either.
Yeah. But I don't recall saying, is this right for me? It was more like the going to college up the street. It was more, oh, okay, it's there. That could have been a lack of a reference point of checking in, or it might have been, that's how alignment shows up. There's kind of, the door just opens, and okay. But I've also had times in my life, in relationships in particular, where I would stay in them too long when it wasn't in alignment, but because it seemed to be in the flow. Because, well, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. So where alignment gets tricky is where we think flow, let me keep doing what I'm doing because I'm doing it. We confuse that with being in alignment, when there's often clear signals that it's not. So maybe you could speak to that distinction and how it showed up for you.
Well, and it's such an interesting point, because I was actually in that as you were talking, going, that's fascinating, because that is the unconscious versus conscious experience. That is, things unfold because we create momentum, right? We create a momentum in our lives based on our perception, based on our beliefs, based on whatever's happening for us. So we create a movement, and in that movement, things seem to flow. But at every time that there's a new, like I was listening to what you were saying as I was remembering your conversation about going to school, and that you had these thresholds that you were needing to meet, and you weren't there. So here you are in a flow that takes you to a place that you are actually not necessarily aligned with. And so you found an alignment within it, and somewhere along the way, you brought the two together, because you completed your education, you got a PhD, you did those things. So somewhere, somehow, something shifted for you that created this alignment with what wasn't an alignment before. And I think that's the critical point. And I think that you were talking about with what I was doing is this, I don't know that it was different. I think I found myself going there, and I was trusting the feeling. When I decided to go to the college, I remember sitting in the dorm room talking with my friend and going, I think I need to do this. I really think I need to have this experience. And I even said that because at that point I had been gone from my parents for a couple of years. But I had to go back to them to get a cosigner for a student loan in order to go to the school. And I said to them, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I'm doing this for the experience. I don't care what the grades are going to be. I'm not going for grades. I'm going for the experience. And I did okay. I didn't do great, but I did okay. And I had a tremendous experience that ended with an explosion. But,
yes.
But again, leading to another juncture, leading to another crossroads. And so the idea of conscious versus unconscious becomes a really powerful image here, because you can't do anything about where we've been. You can't change the fact that you are conscious or unconscious. You can simply notice how you evolved through your life. And then this is what's amazing to me about this conversation. I've learned so much about you in the last 20 minutes that in the 6 or whatever years that we've known each other. It's like I knew bits and pieces, but I didn't know it in the context.
Yeah.
And so that changes a lot of things in regard to how I understand who you are, who I am in the world now, as I look back at my world and go, wow, I really did that. I really did make those decisions. I really did have that moment. When I share these stories, they're not hyperbole. They're not exaggerated for effect. They're literally what took place. And now they're coming from my 56-year-old viewpoint now, but I'm not taking those perspectives and saying, let's make them really fancy. It's literally what happened.
Right.
So now it becomes even more and more imperative to me that we become more conscious so that we don't get led by things we don't understand, by things that we don't the path of least resistance may not always be a positive one if you're operating in an unconscious behavior, if you're operating from an unconscious perspective, because the path of least resistance is going to take you through from where you are to where you think you want to be. But if you're not clear what that is and you're not conscious, then it can go anywhere. And so it's going to be a more meandering, wild path that doesn't really connect. You're not connecting. You're not aligning. You're just along for the ride, if that makes sense. I don't know if I got the point across.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm thinking my oldest daughter, Alyssa, she finished college in 3.5 years. Took me 6.
Yeah.
As I was on that meandering path. But we have a parallel, a story I haven't thought about for a long time. The whole idea of focusing on experience. So much of my time in college was spent hanging out with my best friend, Rick. And one quarter, it was on a quarter system, we said, how about if we get all A's? We just decided, and one of the classes was a physics class. Neither of us were into hard science. We were psychology majors. And it was a self-paced physics class, and we got through it very quickly. And we both got all A's that quarter. And I remember getting a letter from the dean on a pink piece of paper. This was pre-email. Pink piece of paper that I hung up on my wall for a while. I said, hey, I was on the dean's list, and never did it again. Not because I couldn't, just because I just wanted the experience of that. Can I do this? Yeah, I can do this. And it was fun, but there was nothing about it that made it, I didn't connect it with accomplishment in the sense of a long-term goal of this will help me get a better job or whatever it was. It was just kind of a challenge. Hey, let's do this. So it was for the experience, but it wasn't connected with anything other than let's challenge ourselves.
Lordy, are we there? Okay,
Yeah.
We're still there. Some reason signal's being a little strange today, so it keeps blanking. So
No, we're not going to read anything into that, are we?
No. I find it into this conversation has gone a different direction than I anticipated. In that it really is a focus in that conscious versus unconscious experience, and there were a number of things I was thinking I was going to talk about today that I don't find that are still relevant, but I think they go down a different channel. So I want to kind of end the show with this conversation about honoring the chosen path through alignment, because here at this juncture, so I think so the evolution of these crossroads, these places where we get to choose, we get these opportunities all throughout our lives to make a decision. And those decisions seem to be based on which direction are we going to go. And it's usually either a somewhat conventional or a non-conventional choice based on what our experience has been so far. And typically, I think that actually that decision is, are we going to do conscious or unconscious? And unfortunately, I think most go unconscious for especially at the beginning, unless somehow you were, you attended to things a little differently. Apparently, I attended to things a little differently in the way I was experiencing the world. So for me, there was a lot of conscious going on because I was just so acutely aware of what was in front of me and what was next. But so here we have this evolution of experience. Where did you align? What did you align with? And now at this juncture in your life, whether you're 20, whether you're 30, whether you're 40, whether you're 50, whether you're 60, what is your alignment now? And are you honoring that path by the choices that you're making? And I think that's ultimately what this show is about, is how do we get there from here and how do we support that consistently in our experience? And I think part of that is reflecting on what you've done before, because that behavior is what you will continue to do until you do something different consciously. Behavior does not change unconsciously, ever. So if you're in a behavior pattern, or you're in a performance pattern, or you're in a choice pattern, that pattern will be true for you throughout your life until you reach that really major crossroads where maybe you were trying to give yourself a huge wake-up call, and then something smacks in and says, no, it's time to wake up. And that wake-up moment then changes your trajectory, and now you're maybe more aligned with the path of you instead of the path of convention or the path of non-convention. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And it leads me to recognize that honoring your chosen path through alignment can be difficult. It requires holding ourselves to a higher standard to say, this is what's right for me. I'm going to stick to it. Convention is easier, or unconscious convention can be easier. Mm-hmm. So what you're advocating, I just want to be clear, does not seem easy in the choosing, but it actually is easier in the doing.
Yeah, I think so, because there's, part of what sparked this conversation was me kind of being a little flummoxed and upset about the fact that my choice in how I'm stepping into my world means I don't do all of the, I don't tend to do all of the educational stuff first. I do the experiential stuff first, and then I learn from that, and that becomes and informs the experience for me. And so having lived that experience, and I'm sure I could change it if I really wanted to, but I've had so many crossroads of that decision process, and I've never chosen it. One time, I'm sorry, I did. I chose it one time. And that was when I decided that I should go back to college to get a degree because I was feeling confused about my path. So I accrued a $12,000 student loan bill so I could go to online college for a year and a half and get on the dean's list and then be done with it. So again, I couldn't sustain that path. And the cool thing was I was able to do it. I was able to do it well, and literally got on the dean's list for the entire time I was there. And that felt amazing. Like, I really can do this. But it still wasn't the path. As fulfilling as that moment was, because education all across the course of my lifetime was annoying as hell to me. I hated school forever. I didn't feel like it was supportive of who I was or what I wanted to learn or what I needed to know, but I did it because that's what you're supposed to do. So I thought, if I do it again, maybe it'll fix it. And it didn't. It just gave me a $12,000 bill.
$12,000 later.
$12,000 later. So, Moshe, I'm going to give you the last word here on honoring your chosen path, as we are out of time again.
Well, I want to thank you for choosing to have me on your show and seeing the alignment between our paths and our work. And for everyone listening and viewing, you made the choice too. And I hope this was in alignment with what serves you best too.
Amen to that. Conscious versus unconscious. Always go conscious if you can. Conscious will take you to places that you will feel a level of satisfaction in, even if it's a struggle. There's a satisfaction in the connection you have to yourself that's powerful. So have an amazing day. Thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for joining us. Moshe, I always appreciate you, and these conversations are amazing. And I love the synergy that we always have together in being able to talk about these topics and really take them deep. So I'm grateful to you and being a part of the show, and I'm grateful to all of you out there. Have an amazing day. We'll see you next time on Adventures in Truth. Talk to you soon. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Adventures in Truth Livecast. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like to learn more about Jim's book, Fear is a Choice, Unraveling the Illusion of Our Separation from Love, check it out at www.fearisachoicebook.com. Also check out Moments of Truth, a new offering from Adventures in Truth. If you'd like to work with Jim, check out www.thesciencetransformation.com to book a session. Tune in live every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time and every Friday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Or look for our new releases and podcasts every Monday. Until next time, be well, and we'll see you again on Adventures in Truth Livecast.